heavyweight standouts.
A winner by a knockout.
This video is just marvelous. So call now and order boxing bloopers and KOs.
And here you see Marshall got his right hand going pretty well in the second round, and he even ducked a punch there.
Yeah, Marshall technically did more in the second round. Did go side to side. Gave Beasley a lot of different looks that time.
I liked Marshall in that round. I really did. I thought that the right hand especially was pretty effective for him.
The numbers in the second round. Beasley was busier, but Marshall a little bit, well, the same percentage. There you are. I was never very good in math.
Well, okay. I knew it was a close round. 5-point difference there for Beasley. I really thought the more effective punches came from Marshall last time. Good left hook to the body by Lonnie Beasley.
Marshall's still trying to counter over the top of that.
A little bit short with that right hand. Again, you see that Beasley is the guy who has his feet planted in the ring, who's punching from a slightly better power base. Marshall moving around a lot so as not to get hit, but he really can't get set to punch with a lot of power.
Beasley made an interesting point, too. He said, the only time I ever tried to knock a guy out, I lost. That was his only loss.
Well, that'll break you of that habit in a hurry.
And he hasn't had a knockout since then. And that was 1987, I hasten to point out.
That was his loss to Oscar Pena. Right. A TKO in 3 rounds. Beasley was stopped. You know, that's one thing that you have to say about a fighter who knows his limitations and will then fight within that range from then on. And some fighters know that they're not punchers and they're not going to try, and jeopardize their chance to win a fight by trying to go for a knockout.
This continues to be exactly as advertised. Very close fight. Good body shots from Marshall.
That was right below the B in Beasley, I thought. A little bit south of the border.
That time Beasley countering Marshall.
Right now, Beasley looks like the stronger fighter. He really does. Marshall's off balance. You see, when he misses, he almost falls down on some of those punches.
Lost his mouthpiece.
Good right uppercut by Marshall.
Yeah, some very close rounds. You could almost make a case, with the possible exception of the first round. Certainly these last two, you can make a case for either fighter. We'll be back to Fernwood Resort right after this.
A twin blade from Bic?
What's in it for me?
I'm a big man. Big man.
It's different.
Field and Bow will have a look back coming up this Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. Al Bernstein managed to pen both Holyfield and Bow in the same studio, as a matter of fact.
Boy, I wonder what was easier to deal with, the Cattle or those guys. There's the punch I was talking about. Split the B and the E, and that's a borderline shot, but technically a low blow.
So we got a very competitive and very close fight between these two.
This is a really hard fight to score, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of punches. That might be the most solid punch of the fight landed by either fighter, that right by Marshall.
And you can really see him consciously bend his knees and try to generate some power on that punch.
Well, and Beasley's still here.
Yes.
Enough said. But, I mean, there are a lot of punches being landed, and the punch count might actually have Marshall slightly ahead, but I kind of, just from watching the fight, I get the feeling that Beasley is the more dominant fighter.
Marshall rarely gets the best of it from the judges because his career has been dominated by his being a counter-puncher. As a matter of fact, Bob Miller said an interesting thing. He says most trainers will yell at their fighter during the course of the fight, be first, be first, be first. He says what we want to do is be last.
Yeah, when you're a counter-puncher, they yell, be second.
Left hand, but a slapping left hand.
He lands it a lot with the inside of the glove, Barry, almost on the wrist area, which is never going to generate much power. sorry. I think we're going to say the same thing. That was a good combination by Beasley, I thought, because he was right in there. Boom, 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 boom. Never left his feet. Well, I noticed Marshall is starting to lunge a little bit. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, it is what I was going to say.
Okay. The right hand glanced off the shoulder of Marshall. Looked a little bit worse than it was.
Beasley has a tendency to loop his power punches. He has this nice straight jab, but he comes from outside in with his power punches.
Power punch might be a misnomer in this fight. Although I'm glad we're sitting down here and not up there, but the record says that neither one of these fighters is a real powerful puncher. And speaking of looping, you can see right there all of those punches caught on the shoulders and elbows of Tony Marshall.
Beasley also just took a step back and took a deep breath. And this is the type of fight that could easily come down to a conditioning fight.
Yeah, they both seem to be in very, very good shape.
So we come to the end of round number 4, and the fight that has been exactly as everybody had hoped. Very close.
David Robinson.
Take the time.
There's about as good a right hand as Tony Marshall can throw. Boom, right behind the ear. And I don't think Beasley even blinked, but it does count as a connect.
And of course, the problem with Marshall being unable to generate much power with his best shot is that fighters, not so much like Beasley, but if he gets against a guy who really is someone who concentrates on trying to get his man out of there, he's going to just start to walk through him and show him no respect.
Right. And speaking of connects, well, first of all, here it is. You see, this just in from CompuBox, 1 punch edge for Beasley. However, in power punches, he has an edge 97 to 65. And I think that's really the big difference in the fight. Not the number of punches landed, but the quality of it. And right now, Beasley does look a little bit tired. And those 2 punches, I don't know where they came from.
I was just going to say, and he's not doing as much in this round, and a lot of fighters will take a round off on occasion. I don't believe Beasley is doing that.
If he is, he better take it off a little bit more carefully than this. I mean, those last 2 punches came like from Essex County somewhere, which for those of you who don't know is about 40 miles east.
And there's Marshall with a nice combination that actually stood Beasley up for a moment. I really do believe Beasley is getting tired.
Wow, he really looks like he's coming apart in a hurry, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just resorting to tricks here.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to take a round off, you know, and this is not one of the recommended ways to do it.
Pretty good left hand from Marshall, but again, and a right hand right on the button, but Beasley doesn't go anywhere.
Beasley looks like he's completely gassed, and he's lost all his discipline. You see the way he got nailed with those shots because his hands are down.
That was a good left hand from Marshall, too. By far, Marshall's best round of the fight. By far.
They're very excited in the corner of Marshall. I think they know that this is his chance. He might even be able to score a rare KO. He's got a very tired opponent.
Yeah, arm-weary opponent. Now he has to get out of the mold, which he's doing, of being a counterpuncher.
Beasley still coming forward as the round ends.